Today I'm going to be potting up some tulips in a container. It's late October, but to be honest, if you're only watching this in even mid-December and you've still got some bulbs, it's still worth popping them in. Although the ideal time for daffodils is always said to be September, early October, tulips leave till November. In practice, if you don't quite hit those windows, it's not too much of a problem. Today I'm going to make a container with a nice tulip mix called fruit salad. It's a lovely mix from Sarah Raven, and it's going to go into this nice big pot. Now, bulbs in containers are an ideal way to get rid of all of those part bags of compost that you've accumulated throughout the season and didn't get finished. And the reason why it's good to use them up is that when you get to the spring and you start sowing again, pricking out, that's when ideally you'll be using fresh compost. Fresh compost is always best for many reasons. And so in the autumn, for anything in a container, bulbs particularly, that's the time to use up these old packs. And talking about fresh compost, one thing that we as a company have started doing is at the bottom of the bag we put the date of manufacture, and this allows you when you go into a garden centre to make sure you're buying compost that's been relatively freshly made. You don't want to be using something that was made last year or even 6 months ago. Really, ideally, when you buy it, you want it to be freshly manufactured and in tip-top condition. But as I say, for something like bulbs in large containers, this is a good way to get rid of your old accumulated part bags. And if you're using using up different things, just give them a rough stir up. It doesn't have to be absolutely mingled completely, but just so there's a nice well blended amount of compost. Now, with bulbs in pots, you can plant them much more closely together than you would in the garden to get a good impactful display. So if you put about a third of the container full of compost and then take your bulbs, I've got 5 different varieties of tulip here, so I'm just going to take a few out of each pot, and as always with bulbs, pointy end up, roots end down, and this is a nice mixture of pastel shades going from pale pink through to magenta, and it'll give me a lovely display in probably late April going into May. Now, one other way of planting bulbs in a container is to make what's called a bulb lasagna. You can see a very nice picture of this on our Instagram at Sylvagrow, where we've got a whole array of bulbs in one pot. And if you're really clever about it, you can get a succession of different things coming up over a much longer period. So that's another way to have some fun with bulbs in containers for the spring. But on this occasion, I've just got this nice blend that's been chosen, the varieties have been chosen so that they will all come out at roughly the same time, but give me a nice display for actually several weeks, and that's really what you want. So I'm really pushing them in quite tightly. So in this container, I've now got probably 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I've probably got 16 or 17 bulbs, which is much closer than you put them ideally in the garden. So once you've got your bulbs nicely in there, you just top up the compost. If you were doing a bulb lasagna, bulbs would go in at different layers. One thing to be aware of with a bulb lasagna is that some bulbs get very leafy once they've actually finished flowering. So choose your varieties carefully so that you don't end up with your smaller bulbs being engulfed with a lot of the leaves of some of the earlier flowering daffodils, for instance. So just gradually fill up the container with this lovely blend of compost. There's a bit of a consolidation. One thing you can do, you can pop other things in the top here. You could put in some wallflowers that would flower at the same time. That's if you choose your colours carefully, you can get a wonderful combination of different shades of the same colour. I'm just going to finish this one off very nicely with some of our potting grit. You can use potting grit or a coarse grit, and that'll just help to keep the moisture in. Bulbs require good free drainage, so always, as with anything in a pot, check that the water, that you've got holes at the bottom of the pot and that it's draining away. I will now put that in a nice corner, give it a good water, put it somewhere where it'll get natural rain over the winter, and it'll just sit there, doesn't need anything more doing to it. Everything will start to emerge, and I'll have a wonderful display next April and May.